Okay. So what is object-oriented programming means? It's just a approach or a pattern. So everything will be treated as an object in the object-oriented programming. So basically, object will pass messages to another object. Each object decides what to do with the received message. So object has two characteristics. One is a state and behavior. So every object has a state and behavior will be there. So state means the characteristics, how it looks like. That's the state. Behavior, what it is going to do. So what it will do, that's a behavior. So you take any object in the real world environment, every object has a state and behavior. So you can define an object as an entity that has a states and behaviors. So for example, if you take dog, cat, vehicle, mobile, laptop, table, anything you take, these are all physical entities. Every physical entity has a state and behaviors. So suppose you see a dog has a states like name, age, color. These are the states. A behaviors like what it will do, eating, sleeping, running, all these are the behaviors of a dog. The same as a cat also. Cat has a name, age, color, and all these, right? Those are the states. Behaviors means what it is going to do. So sleeping, playing, running, feeding, all these are behaviors. State tells us how the object looks, what properties it has. Even if you take a person also, so what is his name, height, address, all these are the states. The actions what he is going to do is the behaviors. So that's the behavior means. Behavior means so what that object will do. So what the object does. So that is what the state and behavior means. So object has a state and behavior, both it has. So we can represent this real world dog or cat or anything in the software. So by defining an object, it has a states and behaviors. The software objects are the actual representation of real world entities. Basically, real world entities you can represent in the software, but it will occupy a memory, right? So when you create object, memory will be occupied. But so object, another definition you can give, an instance of a class, instantiating a class. So means the same thing as creating an object. What is mean by instantiating? A class means nothing but creating an object for a class. Creating an object for a class. So that is the instantiation of a class. So when you create object, it will occupy the memory in the heap area. These are called runtime objects. So the reference, you can create an object with a reference variable and without reference variable also. You can create object with a reference variable and without reference variable also, right? with reference variable, the reference data type should be either same class type or parent class type also you can use as a reference variable. So that I'll show you parent class type. You will get in the OOP concepts, all this parent class type also you can refer. It's all about object. So what is object? Object is an instance of a class is called object. Instantiating a class is nothing but creating an object. So object has a state and behaviors. When you create object, memory will be created. So what are classes? Class is a template or blueprint which is used to create object. Class is used to create object. If class is not there, object doesn't exist. Class is a logical entity. Object is a physical entity. This object exists. So you can see here, imagine a class as a cookie cutter. So this is the class because it's a template, right? Based on this template, see, you can develop so many cookies. These are all objects. See, with one template, you're generating more cookies. That is more objects. Like many laptops, right? There is a template, laptop template. Based on that, you can create a many laptops. So class is just a template. From that, you can create a number of objects. So that's the class and object difference. So classes define the states, object states are there, right? That states using instance variables. And behaviors you can define with the instance methods. So as you know already, instance variables and instance methods means non-static variables and non-static methods. Instance variable is nothing but a non-static variable. Instance method is nothing but a non-static method. So instance variable also known as a member variable in the class. When you create a class, it doesn't occupy any space. But when you create object, it occupies the memory. So this is the main difference between. So let's create a class, cat class. So you see, so this cat has a name, age, color, breed. These are the instance variables, right? If below the class, above the methods you declared. Without, you're not assigning the value here. You're not assigning the values here. The behaviors is you can create a method, instance methods. You can create. So one is sleep method, play method, and feed method. The instance methods you created. But why you created this cat class? But I want to represent two different cats with a single class. How can you represent? So that program I'm going to show you here. See, so here we have one cat. This cat is sleeping. So another cat which is playing. How can you represent with one class and two different cats? So that is, I'm going to show you now how you can represent that. So how to see that, right? So that is what I'm going to show you now. So let's create a object for a class, and there is a difference also will be there. And if you want to represent multiple objects, you have to create object for the class. Simple, very simple. With a single class, you can represent multiple objects. So with this different objects, you can refer, right? So this Rambo is playing and Thor is sleeping. How can you represent independently? So for each object, so you can have the same methods, same instance variables in that memory address. So I'll create two different cat objects. One cat object is Thor object, another cat object is Rambo object, so that I can represent with a single class. So that is what we are going to see now. Let me show you that how we can also represent. So this is the new package I'll create. In the same here itself, I'll give package name. In the class creation itself, we can create a package also. Oops, programs. So I'll give first cat class. So take the main method, finish. See, you created a new package, right? Created a new package. And so you're going to declare the instance variables. So how to declare instance variables? So above the methods, below the class without static keyword, right? So string name, int age, string color, so string breed. These are the 4 instance variables I declared, but I didn't give values. I'll give values later. At runtime, I will give so that it will go and store in that memory. So I can represent multiple objects, multiple cats with a single class. How you can represent multiple cat objects? So with a single class, I'm going to show you now. So we're just creating a template now. So that template, so instance methods, behaviors I'm representing with instance methods. States, these are all called states. States are represented with instance variables. So the behaviors are represented with instance methods. So let's create all the methods. Public, void, sleeping. So that is sleeping. I can build the methods like this. So different methods I can write. Protected void, playing. So cat is playing. Okay, so I guess you can just build your methods. Now how can you represent different objects? See, create object for the cat class. Create object for Thor cat. So Thor cat object. So I'm just cat Thor will be equal to new cat. Now what will happen immediately when you create this line in the heap memory? One memory will be created. So with this object reference. So this is the object. It will go and create there. So now I can represent all my Thor object related properties and methods I can call. So in that memory, all the instance methods, instance variable will go and store there. So the same copy, this copy will go and store there in that heap memory. See now, I'll assign the values now to that variables. See how I am assigning the values. So assign the values. So Thor obj dot name. How you can call non-static variable? Object reference variable dot the non-static variable equal to Thor. So this value will go and store in the instance, the heap memory. So with this object, this memory is separate, right? This memory inside this Thor value will store with name. Same Thor obj dot age. So I can give 3 years. So Thor obj dot color. So I can give say string. So brown. Our work is a dot braid. See the instance variable, how you are calling, this is the very important. Okay, how we are calling instance variables with object reference. So braid equal to, so Russian blue, Armenian Q9, just put some name, any name you can give. So this is all the values you kept it. So what will happen in the memory is this object has these values. And you can call the methods also. Call sleeping, Thor cat is sleeping, right? So call sleeping method with that object. So Thor obj dot sleeping. You can with this object you can call all the members of that object. See, with the object reference only you are calling. So this we already learned and we practiced many times, right? So how to call non-static variables, how to call non-static methods. We are well aware of this one. But again, I'm repeating that. So next, for example, you want to print these values. You can print all these values, right? You can print all these values if you want. Suppose I want to print just Thor object dot name. So if you do, and it will print the value. So cat name is. If you want, you can print it. Thor is a dot name. So like this, I can write a 4 print statements. So cat is this. Just a variable name will change. Cat color is color. Cat braid is just a braid. This is the, you can just printing the values with object reference dot name. You set them here and you are printing those values here. Without setting, if you do, default values you get. Without assigning the values for these variables, and you are calling this, so you get a default value. So default value for object, for a string is null, for integer 0, for a string is null, for a string is null. So the data type of color is string, name is string. So string data type default value is null. Default value, it will be there in the memory, we will provide. So this is the one object, simple object I have created. But I want to represent another cat. How I can represent? So similar cat. So Rambo is equal to new cat. So similar, almost similar things. So I'll just change the reference variable. That's it. So I can change now. This is the Rambo. And this I can give different values. The same variable I can give different values. White. And I can change this to like this. Right? So this is the how you can, but you have to change this object reference. So you have to change the object reference. The different values I'm storing. You can call playing method. So because that is playing, right? So playing, I can call play method. That's it. See, one method only we created, but we are representing different cats in different ways. Which one you want? So this is the main advantage with objects. So main advantage with objects. So single template, and you can represent with multiple. See, the values also differently with. So now Control Shift format. the code will be formatted properly. Control S you do. Now these things are different. This object is different, and this object is different. So this object has these values, and this object has these values. So each object has its own values. You can set different unique values for each object. That is possible with instance variables and instance methods. You can represent uniquely with instance variables. That point I mentioned in the variable types. Variable explanation time I mentioned very, very clearly. Again, I'm showing you proof here. Practicals I'm showing you. Each object will represent a unique data. So that is with instance variables only possible. Static will represent the common data, but instance represent the unique data. So that's all about object and class. So see that cat is sleeping, and this is all Thor related data, and the cat is playing. This is all about Rambo related data. Okay. So this is how you can represent with one class, multiple objects. You can represent multiple data sets. You can with the same class. So that's the instance variables and instance methods a difference. And there is a difference between class and object. So how you can represent, what is the difference between object and a class difference? So object is an instance of a class, or instantiating a class. That means creating object for a class. That's what object means. Class means it's just a template or a blueprint. So which you use it to create objects. Object is a real world entity, and class is a logical entity or a group of similar objects will be there. So object is a physical entity, class is a logical entity, and object is created through using new keyword, and class is declared using class keyword. And object is created many times as per requirement, but class is declared only one time. So object allocates memory when it is created. Class doesn't allocate memory when it is declared, when it is created. So there are many ways to create object in Java. One is using new keyword. We know only new keyword you can use to create object. But there are other ways also you can create object. So there is a new instance method is there. Clone method is there. Factory method, deserialization. These are all other ways you can create object. This is one of the interview questions. Generally, we will create object with a new keyword. There is other ways also you can create object. What are the other ways? So that's an interview question. So you have to give new instance method, clone method, factory method, deserialization. So these are the other ways other than new keyword you can create object with these processes. So there is only one way to create a class using class keyword. So that's all about object and class brief introduction. Let me give you the diagrammatic, the how. So your diagram, when you created two different objects, how it will go and store there. See. So this is your object, and this is the stack memory. This is the heap memory, right? This is the heap memory. So heap memory. This is the stack memory. So already mentioned, but again I'm representing one more time. So when you create object for each, for example, you created for a new cat, right? So one memory will occupy. So another memory will occupy. So many objects you create, that many times a memory will occupy in the heap. So now here, so for example, you are at a new cat. New cat. So this is the one object. So if you create one more time new cat, right? So new cat, another object. Every time you create a new, another memory will create in the heap. Every time you create a new keyword, if you use, new memory will be occupied in the heap memory. So here all the name and everything will be available here. So name is star, right? Is equal to 3. Whatever the values you set, all the values will come and store here. And breed. So what is the value we set? Minus q, right? So this is the values. And also you have sleeping method and playing method and eating method. So every object same copy will be there, but the instance variable data will change. Data you can set with variables, right? So that so name will be here Rambo, and age is different, right? Here we set a different color is different. We set it. That is I think white. I set it, right? And then what is the other one? Breed. Each object, same instance variable will be placed there in that memory. And Russian blue. So again, same eating method, sleeping method, same methods will be there. Playing method will be there. Same will be here also. But each object is representing differently, right? So this object is referred by different instance variable. This object is referred by different variable. So this is the one frame in the stack. So that's a main frame, right? This is the main frame, main method frame, this one. So this is the main method frame. So in this main method, we have given a one Thor object, Thor obj, and this one is Rambo obj. So like this. If you want to call this data and this reference variable, you will use. If you want this data, this methods, this reference variable, you will use to call the data. So this is the memory picturization, how it will be there. Okay. So that's what we did, right? So each memory, different data you are storing uniquely. That will go and store in this address, and this address is different. So Thor object double equal to Rambo object, if you do, you will get a false. Why you will get a false? Because this address is different, this address is different. Like a houses, right? So each house address is different. This has a one address and this has a different address. If you use Thor object double equal to, if you do Rambo object, you will get a false. Let me show you that also quickly and I'll close it. If I do, so Boolean B equal to Thor obj, so double equal to Rambo obj, if you do, you will get a false, obviously. So comparing Thor object and so how I'm using double equal to, I'm using to compare. So remember that. So we are comparing. So B. So what is the value you can get? False you will get. So what is the output you will get? False. Why it is false? Are you understanding why it is false? Why it is false? Why these two are not equal?
Because they do have different values in
integer numbers. These are integer numbers. This address is different. Other address is different. This object address is different. This object address is different. And this object address is different. That's a false. Both are not same. Okay, so that's all about basics of object and class. One more time, so just